Hello and welcome to Tracy Momi Reads. I am back again with another video. Today I am going to be reviewing the book A Likely Story by Leigh McMullan Abramson. What a mouthful. A Likely Story, Leigh McMullan Abramson. So let's get right into it. It's weird to be holding an actual book because it's been a while since I've read like a physical copy. I've been reading so much stuff on my Kindle. I have so many, stuff pops up on there. I get like the free books or Libby most of the time. The majority of the books are from the library through their Libby app where you can, have them sent to your e-reader. Okay, so the premise of this story is there is a woman by the name of Isabel. She's the main character. And I thought it was so interesting that the last book I reviewed about an author or a person writing a book or involved in publishing or whatever, her name was Isabel. And, there have been times where I've read like books about marriages, and it always seems like there is a character named Jack or a character named Claire. It's just funny how some of these authors in some of these genres are using the same names. And don't even get me started on like the mafia books, because there's always a Dominic, a Luca, and stuff like that. For a while, I swear I thought I was going crazy with those books when I was, reading all those books, because I'm like, did I read this book already? Because the names were so repetitive throughout the thing. But, I guess it's just par for the course. So anyway, this particular book, it is so funny now that I'm about to say it, because my husband brought it to my attention. He said that my favorite word is genre. I say that one time during all of my videos because I want you guys to know what genre the book is in. And this particular book, I think this is it's either considered like contemporary fiction or maybe women's fiction. So anyway, Isabel, back to her. So she's the main character of the story, Isabel Manning. And she grew up basically with her father mostly. I mean, they in the blurb it says an intellectual it couple, her parents. But her father, Ward Manning, was a very famous and celebrated author, right? So, and her mom, she was, a socialite, and she volunteered, and, she was just a really sweet person everybody loved, and she was just like Ward's rock, right? And her name was Claire. Imagine that. So at the beginning of the story, which is the prologue, there is a dinner party celebrating Ward's latest book. And Isabel at the time is a kid, but the author sets us up to show how just enamored Isabel was with her father and his celebrity, being like a writer and being famous for it. That's very rare that you have authors that reach that level of, like being like famous and being just as revered as like a movie star or, or something like that. Very rare does that happen. Because you can maybe look at some of the most popular selling authors right now, like if Colleen Hoover walked in this room right now, I don't know what she looks like. I have never seen the woman. But I know that her books are all over, the place, all over the stores and all over social media. And even like Stephen King, I know what Stephen King looks like. And his movies, and a lot of people have seen his movies, but he probably could go somewhere unrecognized and, things like that. He's very well known and celebrated, but not to the level that Ward was in this book. Like he was recognizable and everybody knew him and all that stuff. And it just fascinated Isabel from the time she was a small child. So, needless to say, she wanted to follow in her father's footsteps. And as I went on reading the book, it became one of those things where, was she wanting to follow his footsteps because she really wanted to be a writer? Or did she just like the attention that he got? And that's kind of throughout the book, you start to like, when you start to kind of dissect Isabel's personality, it just makes you wonder. I mean, she wasn't without talent. I mean, according to, some of her early success and things like that. But what is at the meat of this story, and what she doesn't realize, is that there's a secret behind her father's success, the narcissist that he was. In the book, and this is all in the blurb, Claire has passed away. I mean, we learned that like in chapter 2, but it's also in the blurb. Claire has passed away, and now Ward and Izzy, they're kind of left untethered because she was really the glue that held them together. And ironically, they are both, working on novels. And Ward is at the end of his career. He's almost 80, or he's right at 80. Izzy's in her mid-30s, and she has just never had the success that her dad had, and she's still chasing that, almost refusing to do anything else, just kind of living, selling stuff so that she could pay her rent, and not refusing basically to get a real job, and all this stuff, because she just wants to show that she has the stuff, because early on she had gotten some attention for her writing, and she just has been riding that wave since her 20s. So they are both writing books. And the author does this very clever thing where there is a book within this book, okay? So there's another story being told. And I thought it was very clever initially, because we get a chapter from the story that's being written, and it's after one of Ward's points of view. And because there's like the story is told between Ward and Isabel's point of view, the father and daughter. And when Ward is like saying, "Oh, I have to sit down and I have to start writing this story," then we get a chapter where it's this other story that's a story is taking place, right? Different font, everything. It's a book being written. And initially I was like, "Oh, okay, so this is Ward's story," but then we get another chapter where Isabel is writing a story, and it's like a continuation of the story that we read after Ward's chapter. So I was thinking, oh my God, are they writing the same book and they don't even know it? But as we go further through the book, it is the same story, but the author is neither one of them. Keep that in mind, okay? Somebody else is writing this story, and it is a fictional story. However, names have been changed, circumstances have been, rearranged, but it is kind of the story of like Ward's life almost, if you will. It was very reminiscent of, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie The Best Man, like the first one. One of the characters was writing a book, and he was writing, this book where he had changed all the names and, kind of like some of the circumstances, but it was about his experiences in college, and all of his friends were mentioned. They just had different names. And when they read the book, they knew, oh no, that's me. And you're talking about that time. And he revealed some big shocking secret too, in that book, that because he didn't think anybody would catch it, but they did. And just like in this book, Isabel catches what was going down in that book. But she also shows us that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. When she ends up having an opportunity to do something to make a name for herself, it's like a full circle moment, because her dad had done the same thing. And, I know it sounds like I'm talking in riddles, but I'm trying to get better at not giving full plots. But if you are someone who, first of all, if you are a reader and you are a writer like myself, you will really, really love this book, because there's so much stuff on the back end talking about the process of putting a book together, and the creative things that writers go through, and having like writer's block and things like that. And then, like I said, just the cleverness of the parallel of the two stories, this main story and then the story within this story, was just so clever. And I think also it speaks to something much deeper, where a lot of times when you have couples that are married and one of them is super successful and the other, the spouse that's not successful finds themselves living in that person's shadow. But what the rest of the world may not know is just how instrumental the spouse without the spotlight has been in holding this person up and helping them to create their persona, their work, allowing them to be able to be out there doing what they're doing because of what they're holding down at home. And I really feel like it was an homage in a way to Claire, Isabel's mom and Ward's wife. And I think like one of the big takeaways that I had from the book, and I made a note here because I want to read what I actually wrote, was my aha moment from this book. So sometimes telling the truth might make you lose everything, or you might gain everything, including some respect for yourself. And I think that was what the characters in this book were faced with at the end, especially Ward's career. It was all smoke and mirrors. It was smoke and mirrors. And unfortunately, his daughter had kind of fell into that same trap, trying to impress him, so to speak, and not even knowing, like the kids say, he was her biggest op, okay? Because he was so like just selfish and self-involved. He did not want that spotlight on anyone else, including his own daughter. So yeah, it was a very different book from, the books that I've been reading and the mystery, romance, and, and all that stuff. But it was very well done. And I love when I read books like this that go back and they tap into the intellectual side, and they're like so delicately layered, and they deal with very relatable, very human stories. If you're into books and stories that focus on the idea of family and legacy, if you are interested in books that have, a book within a book, another story going behind the scenes, if you, like myself, love to see how authors dissect romantic relationships, and I only say romantic because there are a couple, like with marriages or a romantic partner. It's not a romance book by any stretch of the imagination, but there are relationships involved, friendships involved, family dynamics involved. And I love seeing how other authors connect their characters and show like their flaws and how they really do mimic real life. And a lot of times I think when you're reading and you read someone else's either struggle or epiphanies or whatever, it sometimes sparks something in you to maybe look at things with a different perspective. And I think that this book really did that in a lot of different ways. If you are looking for something that will have you in certain parts on the edge of your seat because you're like, oh my God, well, what's going to happen? Is she going to do it, or is he going to tell her? Are they going to go? I think that you also enjoy this book. I'm not doing the star system anymore, but I would definitely give it 4 stars. A very engaging read, a very cerebral read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I mean, as far as endings go, there was an ending. No, I feel like the ending was very hopeful. I'll say that. It was very hopeful. I mean, throughout the book, I was like going on and on about Isabel needed to grow her ass up. And in the end, like, she took accountability and responsibility. And you know, I don't know that that's what her mother had intended, you know, before she passed away. I don't know if that's what she was envisioning, but it did happen. And it also left the door open for a potential reconciliation between her and a friend that she had kind of fallen on the wayside, and even her father, because when she learned her dad wasn't who she thought he was all these years, I mean, that was pretty heartbreaking for her. Because think about it, you have been chasing this idea and trying to impress this person because you had them on such a high pedestal, and when they probably should have been, the pedestal should have been on top of them. You know, it's like, it's almost like your whole life is a lie. To some extent, her whole life was a lie. And she had wasted so much time, you know, chasing and trying to do this thing and trying to impress him. And he wasn't even the person that she should have been doing all of that for. So keep that in mind. Anyway, I'll end my rambling there. A Likely Story, again, by Leigh McMullan Abramson. Very good read. Be sure to check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video. And if you have read A Likely Story, I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. And be sure to go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And share this video with someone who you think may enjoy my content. Thanks again, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day. See you next time.